Oh my gosh, okay. 24-hour Tarothon, guys. I've just actually got Zach finishing off behind me, so I was just kind of going live, so it was a seamless transition, and then I realised it's not going to be a seamless transition because I'm literally freaking out. Hey Simon. Simon, how are you even doing this? How are you managing it? Right, I'm gonna get my channel up here now. Zach's just finished. He was chatting about Kabbalah and the tarot and how it kind of all relates. Are you actually on a high though? Are you actually taking something? You must be, surely, to stay awake. Hey Shane, hey, got everyone's flying in. Hey Veronica, and I missed somebody then. Sorry, I haven't said hello to everyone. Hey, Somewhere in Time Tarot. Hey Talia, wow Talia, I've seen you in loads of them as well. Hi Sarah, Book White, Mara, good morning. I'm not usually a morning person, guys. But I was so like, I've watched I watched Simon obviously opening up the Tarothon, and I watched Kelly, and I watched Shane, and while I was watching Shane I had to I watched Christine as well, Christine and Celeste. That was so awesome, but I'm gonna have to go back and watch that because I didn't actually do the spread. Yeah. Hey everybody. I didn't actually do the spread that Christine was showing us while we were doing it because I had to do some things around the house. So I'm going to go back and watch that again because that was really awesome. I could see some of the chat comments were coming up. People were saying it was really, really helpful for them. So I'm definitely going to go back and do that. Then I watched Shane read The Wonder. And I had to have a bath while I was watching Shane because he had to go to a party yesterday afternoon. And while I was at the party, obviously, I missed Veronica Jude, but I'm going to be going back to watch her for sure. And I missed the start of Jennifer Ball. Hey, Christine Celeste. Hey, hey, Christine. Um, yeah, so I watched some of Jen's video. I think she has a little bit of technical difficulties. Hey, Jeff. Everybody's here. Good morning, Kirsten. I have to have some tea. But then I was like, I don't want to drink too much tea because then I might need to pee while I'm doing the live. I'm sure it will all be fine. And actually, I feel much better now that the. Thanks, Zach. You really did because, I don't think mine is going to be quite so kind of complex. I'm hoping we will get into some useful stuff, but hopefully a little bit more straightforward because Kabbalah is just such a massive and complex and many layered topic. It was so cool hearing you talk about it, so thank you so much for that. I was just telling everyone who I'd watch. Who have you watched, guys? Have you been watching? I know Simon has watched everyone. How are you doing it, Simon? You're going to need to sleep for like a week after this now. Oh, thank you, Talia. Yeah, so I set 2 alarms because I was really freaking out in case I didn't wake up because I had to have some sleep. I watched some of Andrea last night. I watched Jeff. Jeff was so cool last night. It was so good. It was just like I could have just watched for like another 6 hours. But quite you've watched them all. Veronica as well. Oh my gosh, wow. You guys, big respect, guys. That is full on. I thought I was doing quite well because I couldn't see Annika because it was like in the middle of the night. I was like, I'm gonna have to have some sleep, otherwise I will just be a complete mess. It is 7 a.m, 7:01. Everyone else in the house is asleep. I'm up. Like I said, I set 2 alarms because I was like so paranoid in case I just didn't wake up in time for it. And then I didn't actually need any alarms because my body just woke me up anyway. So yes, we are here, 24-hour Tarothon on the 21st hour. So I've got an hour and a half coming up now, and I'm going to be talking about tarot spreads, how to use tarot spreads for kind of really diving into really clear readings and making sense. I know the community is so amazing, it is amazing. And also creating our own spread, so using storytelling to be able to create our own spreads which can read for any situation, which I know some people do that and some people are a little bit hesitant to create their own spread. So I'm hoping by the end of this session that everyone's going to feel like super happy about creating their own spreads, using their own spreads. And we're also going to cover some things like reading cards when they pop up in tricky positions, and looking at a spread overall and the kind of directionality of a spread and things like that. So yeah, that is what we're going to be covering today in this session. And then after me, Avalon is going to be coming up, the wonderful Avalon Cameron. And I'm so excited, Anya, as well. I'm like, huh? Yeah, so she's going to be coming up to round it all off, finishing off the Tarothon, and she's going to be talking about kind of connecting, making friends with your deck and intuition and things like that. So that's going to be really, really cool. So I'm hoping everyone will stay asleep so that after I finish this, I can watch that as well. Yes, so breathe, 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 breathe. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jessica, the Story Witch, and I'm in Wales, and it's so same time zone as Simon. So I have had a little sleep and I am ready now in the morning for this. I have been reading tarot. I've been interested in tarot for a very long time, since I was about 13, 14 years old, and I wanted to buy a tarot deck. But I believed that whole thing about not buying your own deck, so I didn't, and then I had to wait a long time until my wonderful sister finally just said, right, I'm just going to buy you one because I'm fed up with you going, oh, I really want a tarot deck. So that was about 15 years ago now. She bought me my first deck. I'm going to be rewatching lots of them, Kirsten, yeah, because there was so much information. I felt like I need, like, my brain didn't have time to kind of process it all. So yeah, I'm going to definitely be watching. Oh, thanks, Christine. That's really sweet. Hey Veronica, I'm glad you're looking forward to the topic. I asked on my Instagram about, questions people had and stuff, so I've made a note of those as well. So hopefully we will be covering lots of the kind of common sticky issues people have with spreads. And I know Tara, Kittens, Weights and Tara talked a little bit about spreads in her session as well, because I did drop in there a little bit. I haven't had much sleep, guys. I'm not as hardcore as some of you. But, I've done my best to watch many, many hours of tarot, and it has been so awesome. Thank you so much, Simon, for organising this. It has been just so crazy. So crazy. Oh, hi, Annika. Yeah, that's cool. I know you said you've got to go get off now and go to work and everything, so... So what was I saying? I was saying, oh, yeah, so I have been reading tarot now for about 15 years, and after you read for a number of years, I know some of you will probably have found exactly the same, that it's hard to kind of keep it secret for too long, and people start asking you for readings, and then people start telling their friends who you don't actually know, so like friends of friends, about readings and stuff, and then in the end of it you end up reading for people that you don't know, and then people start giving you things in exchange for readings, and before you know it you are a so-called professional tarot reader, which I think just means people pay you money for readings. So yeah, I've been doing that for a little while now as well. So that's kind of a very, very brief background to my tarot life. I'm not a huge tarot collector. I've only got, I say only got as if it's like none. I've probably got about just under 20 tarot decks. And I tend to only keep decks that really kind of resonate with me. Hey Kelly, Kelly's in here now as well. So cool. Oh, and Kelly, I'm wearing some crystals, especially for you, to really like raise my vibrational energy and everything. I loved Kelly's chat yesterday. It was so cool listening to her talk about atheist witchcraft, or woo-free tarot. And lots of what she said was totally spot on for me and made a lot of sense. Well, I loved all of what she said. I don't agree on some points, but yeah, it was a really, really cool chat. So yes, very, very good. So I'm just looking, I did make notes, guys. I was thinking this is, an hour and a half. I don't want to get, I know I've got a tendency to chat, so I didn't want to just run out of time. So I've made some notes, and basically what the setup is going to be, the first section, the first kind of half hour or so is going to be about just kind of general talk about spreads. And then the second section, the middle half hour, is going to be about if I stick to these times, which I'm going to try to. So yeah, so that's going to be about creating spreads and using storytelling as a way of creating spreads, which I'm hoping is going to be really useful. And then the final section is going to be about reading spreads and common questions and problems that people have with reading spreads, like when you pull the sun card in a don't do this anymore sort of position and things like that. So you know the things I'm talking about, guys. So yeah, that is what we're going to be doing. Little bit of housekeeping. I am going to pull this chat up on my computer now because I'm doing this on my phone and it's kind of scrolls up and then it disappears, so you can't see people's comments for too long. So I'm going to get it on my laptop as well so I can kind of follow along with questions and stuff. If you do have a question for me, if you put it in all capitals, it's not shouting, it just makes it much easier to stand out in the chat, because I know the chats have been so awesome, but people are chatting amongst themselves, which is totally cool, you know, but that's a big part of why we're here as well, to be part of the community and chat amongst ourselves about things that we love. So yeah, that's super cool. So do that, but if you want me to see it, pop it in all capitals so that I can see what you're doing. I'm going to jump on my laptop and make a couple of people moderators as well, just in case. We have had a couple of trolls. It's been pretty good actually, but there have been a couple of people being less helpful in the comments. So I'll jump on and make a couple of people mods now so that we can kind of keep the chat nice and clear. Oh, thank you, Anya. That's really sweet, really sweet. And yeah, I'm gonna kind of chat for sections to make sure I do get through what I want to get through, but also I want to make sure there is time for questions and things like that as well. So we'll see. An hour and a half, I know, is just going to disappear. So yeah, any other housekeeping thing? All caps. Oh, if the live does, I really hope it doesn't, but in case it does drop at any point, I'll obviously try and restart the stream as soon as possible to make sure that there is no kind of gaps in transmission. So keep an eye out. If I can't start the same live, which sometimes happens, you have to start a new broadcast, then if you just click on my channel link, you'll be able to get back onto the new main broadcast. Hopefully none of that will be relevant because we won't have to do this anyway. So yeah, very quickly, I'm just going to jump on my laptop and bring up the chat and make a couple of people moderators. While I'm doing that, why don't you guys let me know which spread, or just your thoughts on spreads. Do you use spreads? And if you do, what spreads do you like? Do that, guys. I'm gonna just get this chat up now. I'm in. Now this is so weird because I'm now watching like the back of my head. And I can hear myself. So I need to turn that down. Okay. So, oh, my laptop is deciding to freeze on me now, which is really helpful. So guys, have you been sharing about spreads? So Christine's saying she pulls 3-card spreads as general rule. The chakra spread, yeah, that looks really cool. Smaller spreads. Zodiac spreads, okay. Starting with 3 cards. Yeah. For daily spreads, 1 card or 3. General vibe, helpful energies, unhelpful energies. Start with a spread and then go free form. Yeah, I do tend to do that as well. Lots if I scroll up. Right, let's see if I can actually get... Okay, cool. So, I am scrolling up. Oh, I'm trying to. I can't actually seem to make Andy a moderator, but never mind. Yeah, Kelly, we're going to talk about that as well. She said that she hardly ever uses the same one twice, which was something that came up on Instagram as well when I asked about it. 3 to 6 card spreads for clients. Yeah, custom spreads depending on the theme of the reading. Deck interview spreads. Question number cards. Yes, exactly, Simon. If we do break the live and we just keep chatting, then that'll mean we're still having a 24-hour Tarothon, even if the live doesn't continue. But hopefully it will. Don't wish any tech issues on this now. I'm actually going to turn the Wi-Fi off briefly on my laptop because it's having a few issues. But the phone seems fine, which is why I decided to use my phone for the chat instead of the laptop. So I haven't been able to make any moderators, but if we get any issues, Barbara Moore's book on spread, yes, I like that as well, Sarah. And that was one of the things I was going to show you guys. So, yeah, it seems like 3 cards is the kind of most popular, which is also my favourite as well, because I think with 3 cards, 1 card is great, but 3 cards is like small enough to be able to keep it manageable and keep it focused. But yeah, I know that's not good, is it? Should I try and turn it around a little bit? See, how's that? So you can't see me like front and back, which is a bit strange. It's freaking me out a little bit as well. So yeah, layering with other decks, or layering with Oracle as well. Yeah, really cool, really cool. So I'm going back to my notes, guys. Before we really dive into spreads, I wanted to talk about, because I think this is kind of at the crux of why spreads are so useful in tarot, is like why do we do readings? Why do we do readings? Anybody got any answers? I feel like I'm back school teaching again now. I did used to do that. Feels like another life ago now. Claire, we will talk about clarifiers as well, yes. I've taught a little bit of tarot, and I've noticed that when people first start out, they sometimes will be pulling clarifiers left, right and centre for clarity, personal insights, yeah, to dive into the present moment, Veronica, yeah, inspiration, wow. Okay, so there's basically, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, or if you've got a different interpretation, I think that when we come to the cards, it is because we are seeking something. So that could be an answer to a question. It could be insight into the present situation. It could be insight into a future situation, even insight into a past situation. It could be pathworking, yes, as well. So that kind of self-development, which is what Simon started us all off with yesterday. So there are lots of different quests, lots of different reasons, but basically at the heart of it, I feel, is because we are seeking something. We are on a quest for something, and that's something maybe as simple as, what energies do I need to be aware of today, or something like that. I know, Simon, yesterday. It does. It's not quite obviously 24 hours ago, because we're not quite there yet, but it does seem like so much has happened in that time then. It shouldn't just be yesterday. And you've been awake since then, it probably feels like weeks and weeks and weeks. So yeah, so I think there is a question, or some people, you know, they don't use spreads and they like to just kind of randomly pull cards, but generally I think even when you are supposedly randomly pulling cards, there is a question there, as in, you know, like, what is going on with me right now, or what do the cards want me to know right now, or something like that, you know. So yeah, there's a question, or some sort of question. It might be vague, it might be open-ended, but it might also be super laser focused, you know, like, am I going to get promotion in the next 3 months, or something like that. You know, that's the wonderful thing about tarot, is we can use the cards for a whole raft of reasons, and people have talked about this. It's been so cool seeing people's different perspectives on ways to use the cards. I, like very many others here, I know Shane talked about this in his as well, I tend to use the cards as a personal development tool, and I have always preferred to use them like that. That is what kind of attracted me to using the cards in the first place. What am I supposed to know right now? Yeah, that sort of question. It doesn't have to be a specific question about a future event. You know, sometimes when people go for a tarot reading, they go because they do want insight onto that, you know, like, will my husband come back to me, and things like that. And those are the sort of questions I really do. I spoke with Lisa about this in one of the chats. I've lost track. There's been so many cool chats going on. It's that those questions just make my heart sad. And Jeff covered this so wonderfully in his session, because he was saying when people come in with those sort of questions, it can be part of our job as readers to redirect their focus so that they can see that they are themselves the agent of their situation. They're not kind of like at the whim of fate. So you can redirect, and instead of focusing on the lack, which is what they're focusing in those sort of questions, you can turn it around, turn the questions around, and start to look at something more expansive, something that is going to be able to move them to that place of being where they want to be, and out of those feelings that are currently kind of trapped in and cycled. Yeah, Annie, he did. Jeff talked brilliantly about this. It was really cool. And I also loved seeing in the chat of Shane's the people's different perspectives on things like fate and stuff like that, and whether that is actually something that is set in stone, or whether the cards are just giving us a kind of possible future. But I think as a personal development tool, as a kind of personal inquiry tool, that is my number one, pretty much my only use of cards. And the people who have readings with me now know that that is how I use them when we tend to do things like that. I read generally kind of like life path type readings and stuff. So yeah, kind of slight tangent. And also a problem that I find often is that when people come for readings, they sometimes people say, oh, I haven't got a question. And you think, well, why have you come then? Or why have you, yeah, mirrors, 78 mirrors, 78 mirrors, or like Rachel Pollack's 78 keys to unlock all those different wisdoms inside us, you know? So sometimes people come and they'll say, I haven't got a question. And sometimes that's because they are confused and they're not quite sure, you know, things are not good at that present moment maybe, or sometimes things are good and they've just kind of come out of interest. But then there's always a reason why they're there. So sometimes it takes a little bit of kind of chatting, and sometimes just laying down cards as well, you know, like maybe just taking a few cards just to see. And we'll do this when we come to the creating the spreads as well. You can just take a few cards to sort of see who them in their current situation, and what issues are surrounding them right now and things like that. So even if the questions are not super specific, you can always come up with a spread to answer those questions. And I suppose I know most of you here are experienced readers and have been doing this a little while, so you know about spreads and what they are and everything. But just for anyone who is watching who is maybe not sure of what a spread is, all a spread means is laying the cards out in certain positions, and each card has got a question or a position associated with it. So you're reading that card in a context. So if you've got, say, a 3-card spread and you lay 1, 2, 3 cards out together, the first card could be past, the middle card could be present, and the card on the right could be the future. You can also there are a plethora of just 3-card spreads, you know, there are many situation, action, outcome, or oh my gosh guys, so many spreads. So it's having a set position for the spread, so you're not just kind of shuffling and then just popping cards out and then trying to make sense of them, which people do that. I love how, and I'm going to show you some of the books that I like to use for spreads. This book is fantastic in general for tarot. It is wonderful. It was like the first book that I really found that did focus on reading, well, obviously tarot for yourself, on reading for yourself, because there wasn't a whole lot on that. A lot of the older tarot books when I first started reading tended to be about reading for others, you know, meanings, kind of divinatory, fortune telling, future telling readings, like the Paul Fenton Smith books and things like that. Yeah, I think this is a classic book now. It's so, and I return to this every couple of years and redo it again, and you get more and more out of it each time you go into it. And this book does have lots of spreads in there as well. So, and it's got those kind of core spreads that you like, the Celtic Cross, like Tree of Life and things like that. Well, open it up, Shane, because it's really good. Although I don't know if you'll be able to take it with you on your travels. So, but it's fantastic. It is very much a workbook. It's not a textbook. You know, there are exercises to do, and if you just read it and you don't do the exercises, then you won't get as much out of it as if you really do dive in and do the exercises. So yeah, it is really, really good. I totally really recommend that. That's one of the books I recommend to people when they ask me about starting to read tarot. It'd be definitely that one. It would definitely be Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, and well, those two really, I think. And you've got a really super yeah, it has spoken, Shane. The universe has spoken. You need to get it. Those two books give you a really good handle on tarot, and then you can take it anywhere you want to go then. So, oh, there you are, Shane. Kelly's saying that you can do some of the exercises, and they seem like really simple, the exercises, but they do improve your connection with the cards. When I revisit it, I like to revisit it with a different deck as well, which can bring all different meanings. Oh my gosh, guys, it's 7:20 already, and I haven't even really got onto the main bit of this first section now. But I'm going to just finish quickly showing you the other resources I like. This book, which Sarah mentioned at the beginning, I love as well. Tarot Spreads by Barbara Moore. Barbara Moore's work generally on tarot is amazing. I love her just... I think she's very much a successor to Rachel Pollack in that the way she talks about tarot is very empowering. So yeah, this book is fantastic. This has got the kind of the basic spreads. I say basic spreads, I don't mean that. I kind of mean like the core spreads that people use all the time, like Celtic Cross and things like that are in here. But then she's also got some other spreads as well, more kind of connected to different situations and things like that. She separates them out into the kind of things you might want to read on. Like I can't find the bit that I'm talking about now, but she says, like, you know, the spreads for like general readings, spreads for love and relationship readings and things like that. So yeah, this is really helpful. I don't think it's quite as this in my opinion, if you just bought a deck, this and 78 Degrees of Wisdom, you would be, and actually did them, you know, worked through them, that's the core. And then this is a really useful one to also have. Yeah, Barbara Moore is just amazing. I love what she does when she makes decks and when she writes the books for decks and things as well. And then this book, which is newish, I've only had this a couple of years. When did this come out? 2017? No, 2014, I'd say, yeah. So this book is cool as well, but I forget about this one all the time. So even though there's 365 spreads, and in theory you could do one every day, although it would take you quite a long time to do these because the spreads have often got quite a few cards in them in here. But this is a bit of fun, you know, if you want kind of ideas for spreads. Although in a way, this is kind of slightly obsolete now, in that, you know, you can go on Pinterest, you can even go on Instagram, and you could type in, Pinterest is probably the best place for searching, and type in tarot spreads, and you will just find there's almost too many to choose from, and you'll never be able to do them all. But finding the right one for the right situation is important. So what I like about this book is it's so cool to just dip into, and you can do one like Jennifer Ball's Spiritual Garage did one the other day, like halfway through the year spread and things like that. So yeah, if you haven't checked out Pinterest yet, I mean, some of the spreads are not good. What makes a good spread? You know, a good spread is a spread that will give you the insight that you're looking for. So different spreads will be good for different people, I suppose. But I think there's so many spreads out there now, and some of them are just kind of generated almost without loads of thought gone into it, you know, whereas like the Barbara Moore spreads, you can tell that a lot of thought has gone into all of those, so they are really, really awesome. But yeah, with the ones on Pinterest, then just try, you know, you've got nothing to lose apart from a little bit of your time, so, you know, you can just try it and see. And if it doesn't, sorry, I'm trying to put my foot around. I should have used the time, I got up early, like I said, before my alarm, and I should have used the time to kind of like get a little bit nicer and get out of my pajamas, because I'm still wearing my pajamas and everything. But instead I just kind of freaked out and watched Zach. So that's why I look like this, but never mind. I'm hoping you guys are here for the chat rather than the appearance of the presenter. because you guys are just not that shallow, I know. So, show the resources, I've done that. Talked about places for spreading. Also, you know, YouTube here is a really great resource for spreads with the tags and things. So, thank you, Bookwise. I am fresh because I literally have just spoken up, but yeah. Tags on here, you know, some of the spreads that other tarot readers on YouTube create and start off as tags have been some of the best spreads I've used this year. So, you know, that is yeah, we're all in PJs. It's just a whole pajama party. It's a tarot pajama party. So I think YouTube and Pinterest are both excellent resources for tarot. And you can also, if you go onto Instagram, you can search in the tags for like tarot spreads on there. Again, like Pinterest, that can be a bit hit or miss. So, oh, nice. Glad everyone is happy in their PJs and comfy. Let's be comfy. That is what is so amazing about this, isn't it? It's like actually going to a tarot conference, learning loads of stuff about tarot. It's free. You don't have to leave the house, and you can wear your pajamas. What's not to love? You know, it's just so amazing. Yeah. There's also quite a few people like Susanna Conway, who somebody mentioned in the chat. It's flying past again a bit quickly, and I haven't been actually looking at my laptop, even though I've got it there just in case. But there's people whose like mailing list you can sign up for as well. So if you find a reader whose spreads that you really like, maybe on Pinterest or on Instagram, then you can then sign up for their mailing list, and then they'll often send you their spreads and stuff. So fluffy socks, Kelly, nice. I haven't actually got any socks on because I'm like a no sock person unless it is really cold, and then I've got to get a pair of socks on. Bamboo's my favourite though, rather than fluffy. Tarot interaction book. Okay, I don't know that one. A lot of love for the fluffy socks. Okay, so tricky spreads, complicated spreads, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about as well. And we'll look at this a little bit more because I am, even though it's going to be a bit clumsy, I'm going to take this camera and I'm going to turn it around so you can actually see down on my desk so that we can actually look at some spreads and things as well. I'll do that in a moment. But what I find is if I am doing a spread with more than 3 cards in it, I tend to choose a deck which has got slightly more readable imagery. So like I wouldn't use something like Shadowscapes if I was going to do a 12 card spread or something like that, just because it's so intricate in the imagery that it's almost like information overload for me. I know other people will be different, and you'll probably find that you will have a preferred deck for using for certain things, you know. And definitely I do have decks I use for certain things. Like I have decks I prefer to use for like kind of self-care type spreads, and I have decks that I prefer to use for, I don't do a lot of relationship spreads and things like that, but I have, you know, things that are like, I have decks that definitely will kick my ass when I know I need that. And yeah, you know, so like I will choose different decks according to the theme of the sort of reading that I'm doing. Although sometimes I don't always know the theme in advance, in which case I will just pick a like kind of workhorse type deck, which I know will be good for all of those things. But yeah, generally I find that I can get symbolism overload sometimes with, that's cool, Kelly. I'm glad I'm not the only one who's doing it. It went a bit quiet for a minute. I was like, oh. So yeah, it's being mindful of the kind of amount of cards you're doing, and try the same spread with different decks and see how it comes out. And somebody mentioned about overlaying, and I will do that sometimes. So I will lay a spread down with one deck, and then sometimes I will lay the same spread on top of it with a different deck, and sometimes those relationships between those cards as well can be really powerful. So oh good, I'm glad it's because you're listening, it's not because you've all just gone to sleep. Yeah, I definitely think that I definitely think that we can become, well, I definitely can become overloaded. I mean, it's fine, it's really cool if you, I do this sometimes, although not so much since the kids have been born because it's hard to find somewhere to leave it out. But if you are doing a very kind of complicated spread with a lot of cards, if you can leave it out for, you know, for like a week and keep coming back and looking at it, though using a really kind of intricate and many layered deck then with the symbolism can be really useful, because you can keep coming back to it, and you'll see different things every time. So like the longer you can leave a spread out is really, really cool as well. I used to, before my kids were born, I'd do spreads like on the new moon and on the full moon, and I'd leave them out until the next part of the moon cycle. So they would be out for like almost a fortnight, and that would really give me time to you guys are cracking me up in the chat. That would really give me time to dig into those cards. So yeah, if you can leave them out a bit longer, that can give you a whole different perspective on those. Yeah, if you've got cats as well, that's tricky. I did consider, which might sound absolutely bonkers, but you know you can buy like sheets of perspex. So like if you bought a sheet of perspex the size of your table, sometimes I used to have a glass coffee table. You could lift the glass off, and then I could lay a spread down and pop the glass back on top of it, and you can even put cuppas and things down on top of it then as well, and it's totally cool. So there are ways of doing it to be able to leave them out, and you do definitely get more insight into decks. Well, maybe not. You don't always get more insight. Sometimes like a short snappy reading, read it as it is way is really, really cool. But if you can't, you know, if you want to kind of see how you sit with it, then coming back to it, especially with if you work with like with the lunar cycles like I like to, I do find that a really, really powerful practice. So yeah, give it a try and let me know how it goes. I'm sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments. Put them away in order inside the deck. Oh, I missed that then. See, this chat is going so quickly. Yeah. Now I can't get it up on my laptop either, so I'm sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, tricky spreads, complicated spreads, deck choice. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, yeah, take photos of them, definitely. I love taking photos of them, and I do often do that for kind of like reference back to. But however clear your photograph is, I find anyway, it's not as clear as keeping the actual cards themselves out, because you know, unless you kind of really zoom in and then you can't see the bigger picture. I can't anyway. I suppose if you were looking at it like on a really big screen, you'd still be able to see all the differences. So that is definitely a powerful tool, taking photographs of them as well. Definitely do that, but it's not the same as being able to actually see them in full size. Okay, I'm hoping this is not going to be too of a kind of mess, but what I'm going to try and do now is actually take my phone off here, and I've got another little tripod clip thing over here, and I'm going to try and move it, and I don't know if this is going to be, I'm going to see if I can, all right. So what I can do, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, how is that? That wasn't too bad, is it? I'm hoping the light's going to be okay here for you guys to actually see what is going on. Let me know if you can hear me again now, because I've unmuted, but I'm a little bit frightened of the technology not working very well. Oh, good. Thanks, Anya. Perfect. So now we can see what we are doing. Yes, yes, yes. So what I thought we would do is have a little look at a Celtic Cross, because I know this is one of the spreads that it's like the kind of ubiquitous spread that all beginners must use. And it used to be that it would be in every single, you know, when you bought a deck and you had a book with the deck, if it wasn't just like a tiny little folded thing, if it was an actual book, it would have the Celtic Cross in there. I've noticed that that is not always the case now in the, yeah, I do love a salt lamp. It's not always the case in the more recent decks, probably because they realised that, hey, Sally, that they, you know, that people already know a Celtic Cross and they don't do it. There are lots of different versions of Celtic Cross, and oh, I've just noticed my incense has gone out. I'm going to relight that a sec. I wonder why it wasn't smelling lovely. Okay, got to have a bit of incense, haven't you? Is it connecting with deity, or is it just connecting with my own subconscious, as Kelly would ponder perhaps. Okay, so yeah, so people kind of usually have a kind of love-hate relationship with the Celtic Cross. There's some readers who literally will just, they'll put a Celtic Cross down for any type of reading, things like that. And other people will, you know, just be like, no, no way, I'm just not going to do it. But I thought it would be a bit of fun, so let's do it all together. And I'm going to use, because I thought it was appropriate, I'm going to use the Rider-Waite to do it. I'm hoping this is going to be like far enough away that you can actually be able to see the card. Okay, so yeah, the Celtic Cross, some people claim kind of ancient origins for it, but I think it is most likely was made up by Arthur Waite, made up by him of Rider-Waite fame. And the way that I do it is 10 cards. And also, yeah, linked, like Zach was saying this, it is linked to the Tree of Life in the, yeah, Tarot and Psychology. That's a really good one, Kelly, as well. And it does talk about it. Okay, so the way that I do it is this. I tend to shuffle and I'll lay the cards out in their positions. I just thought this would be useful to talk about, you know, the way cards relate to each other. So I do it like this. So I have one here. I don't usually lay them face down actually, but I'm going to lay them face down just for the moment while we're talking about it. So that card for me is the querent, or it is the person you're reading for, which can be yourself in this particular situation that you're reading for. So if you're just doing it like kind of, why would you use a Celtic Cross for this? I don't know. Some people do though, like a what is the energy for me today type sort of thing. That would be you in this particular day sort of energy. So that goes down there, number one. And then what is blocking that or crossing that, or what is the issue that needs to kind of be resolved with this card at the moment? And those two cards together make the cross in the center of the cross. So I know for some of you guys this is not going to be remotely new stuff, but I'm hoping when we talk about it all together it will actually be helpful. So stick with me. And then the next card that I lay down, and this is where this gets a little bit different sometimes from some people. Some people will lay the past card next, but I tend to lay the this card next, which I call the root or the unconscious motivation card. So this for me is what the person that you're reading for is, their unconscious motivation in this particular situation. And then the next card I would lay, which is not going to be visible, which is really annoying, and I flick that up a little bit. Okay, that's not too bad. So that is going to be the conscious. This is what the person is kind of consciously trying to do. And I do find this spread, I do use this spread, not extensively, but I do still keep coming back to it because it is useful, especially for situations, I think, where people have got motivations you're not quite understanding. So like if you're having a difficult situation with somebody, I find this spread can be really, really, really useful. Kelly, do you know, I don't have a mini deck. I probably should get one because I could get the Radiant in a mini. I'm pretty sure they did do a Radiant Rider-Waite Smith in the mini, but I haven't got one. Like I said, I'm very kind of deck poor compared to some of the people on here. I will have to get one. So they do a Radiant in a tin, yeah, so I should probably get a Radiant in a tin because that would be handy, although I don't know if my eyes would hold up to it. I'd probably be okay with a Radiant actually because I know it so well already that I'd be able to still understand the imagery and stuff without being able to see the pictures in big. So this for me is the kind of near past, what has led up to this particular situation. I know, Veronica, I should Veronica Jude my deck. I've never done any deck mods, so you know that is something that is going to be new for me, which I'm working up to possibly doing. And this would be a good deck to do it on because this one is so kind of cheap and easily replaceable. So, and then this is like the kind of near future. Now this, we've made another cross here again now. And to be honest, quite often I'll just use this and I won't bother with the staff up the side here, because I find that most of what I need to know will be contained within these cards that are here. Card spread. But then if we're going to be extra fancy and do the whole cross, then we would put our staff here. So we have this card, which is also a controversial card that people don't always agree on the meaning of. Some people say this is the kind of advice card. Yeah, this was my sort of deck that I learned on, not this version actually, just Rider-Waite, the kind of original Rider-Waite, but this deck, I love this deck. It's so good, and I think trimmed it would probably be super amazing. So I've got to build up to it. So yeah, this card, some people call it the advice card. I tend to call this card how the querent or the seeker views their situation, like what they think they should do, really, I suppose. You can read them slightly differently depending on how the rest of the cards play out. And then this card for me is what the people around the querent actually think is going on. And some people call this the environment card as well. So it can be like just the circumstances surrounding the querent. Personal growth card, yeah, that's a good thing for it too as well. And then we have the hopes and fears card, which is one of the ones that I think when people are learning, they find one of the most difficult ones to interpret. And then this one, which is kind of supposedly, I'm going to move this candle, hopefully without burning myself. Oh, we can pretty much fit them all in, woohoo! So that one is supposedly the outcome card, but it is like when we were in Shane's session, it's like kind of the outcome if things stay as they are, sort of thing. Yes, Anya, I love the hopes and fears card as well. I love that it is hopes and fears, not hopes or fears, and that is such a good kind of reading possibility in that card. It's really awesome. But yeah, you can do it completely without these cards. But having these cards does open up a lot of relationships as well. So like looking at the relationships between these two cards is really interesting. Looking at the relationship between the unconscious and the conscious is really interesting. Looking at the relationship between the past. I mean, you know, we've got a 3-card spread here. We've got past, we've got present, we've got future there. Looking at the block in relation to what other people in the situation are doing is a really good way, you know, a link between these two cards. And looking at the kind of hopes and fears with the outcome and how those things are kind of all linked together. Hopes and fears with the unconscious as well is a really good, you know, looking at the links, because that is the beauty of spreads, and especially the beauty of spreads that are more complicated, like the Celtic Cross, because you can see the links between the cards. You can see the relationships between the cards. So shall I turn them over just for fun and we'll see what was there? Obviously I didn't ask a question, but sometimes you get, you know, you can read a situation from this spread. So if you've got a querent who is not sure of their question, then reading a Celtic Cross can actually give you a massive insight into this situation. Okay, so looking at this, what I would do next, I've kind of got on to the what I was going to talk about in the last part of the session, but we can probably come back to that anyway. What I would first do is kind of look, just generally have a general kind of sweep of the cards and what you notice about the cards that are down at the moment. And what I'm immediately noticing is we've got 2 majors. Everything else is either people or minors. We have got 3 aces in this spread, which is a lot of aces. So that is showing to me that there is a lot of kind of initiatory energy going on here. There is also quite a lot of pentacles going on here. So what I would be thinking from looking at this is that this is a person who has come because they are trying to start something new. To me, it looks like a new job that they are, because of the way it's set out. It looks to me like they're trying to start a new job. They're trying to kind of work on. They've been working on something, and they really want to turn that hobby that they've got at the moment into a future source of income. But there are a few complications, like they're going against the establishment to do it. um, it's reading them like that, those relationships between those cards, looking at numbers of different things and stuff like that, the numerology as well. This is their kind of motivations. Five of Swords, which is always a bit of a tricky card. It's almost like they're not quite sure, and having the Chariot as their hopes and fears, it's almost like they're not quite sure which direction they want to go in, whether they are going to go away from the establishment and manifest what it is that they want, or whether they are going to stick with what they should do and kind of play it safe. Obviously, we didn't have a querent in mind here with these questions. They literally were just out of the deck as they were. But that's kind of how I would look at it as well. And there were some cool questions on my Instagram, which we'll come back to later, about things like directionality. So looking at, yes, definitely lots of emotions going on. Although I do, when I get Ace of Cups, often when I find that in a reading, is often like people say, oh, it's like a new love and things like that, or they get a new kind of relationship. But I do get it a lot when there's like a new passion, so like a new interest as well, not necessarily like a love interest as in another human being, but a new love interest as in something that somebody loves to do. And having this card next to it for me just makes it much more like that is probably to do with a work passion or a career type passion than a person. But obviously that is just, we are readers. We read, but we don't necessarily understand the whole truth, do we? We are reading. There are necessarily gaps in our understanding between what the cards are telling us and what we read. So we do our best as readers, and we try and minimize those gaps. So yeah, so I'm going to pick this back up for a moment and pop it to one side, because I want to talk to you guys, and this is the kind of center of the session. I did call it storytelling with cards because I wanted to show how I have found, what I found helpful in creating spreads. Because what I find with lots of the spreads that you can find on the internet, in all those sources that we were talking about, it's amazing that there's so many spreads out there, but really what you want is a spread that is going to answer the particular question that you've got or the particular situation that you are in. So what is more perfect for that than a spread that you design yourself, And if I've designed quite a lot of spreads that I do use again and again, but I tend to find that I will just make another one as well. So it is really, it is helpful to be able to create your own spreads. Out of interest, guys, who here, I'm sure lots of people do create their own spreads. So yeah, let me know what sort of spreads you like creating, or whether you do create your own spreads, or whether you prefer to just kind of look for the spreads. I know sometimes when I've worked with kind of tarot beginners and stuff, they're sometimes a bit nervous almost of creating their own spreads. So yeah, Kellyanne is a great source for spreads. I love the spreads that Kellyanne uses herself. She creates her own spreads for her tarot readings, so you can see the spread that she's kind of going to use. Yeah, you do create your own spreads. I both look for others and create my own. Veronica Rose says, I'm lazy, I look for spreads, but I have created a few as well. I don't believe that you're lazy, Lisa, even though you are a Taurus. Yeah, and it's fun trying out other people's spreads, because otherwise you can kind of get stuck in your own certain way of doing things. So I definitely, I enjoy, I think it's good for me to try other people's spreads as well and kind of stretch myself like that. But yes, absolutely create spreads, Jeff says. Use plenty of spreads from others too. Yeah, yeah. A healing spread. Oh wow, that sounds amazing, Kirsten. Oh, you should share a picture of that somewhere so that we can see. Maybe if you have got a picture of it, share it in the comments for us. I'd like to. Can you share pictures in comments? I'm such a YouTube noob. Oh no, I'm throwing half my deck on the floor. That's not very helpful. Okay, so in fact, I'm going to grab a different deck because that has just happened. Let's just take this one that's here. So, one way that I have found of making spreads is to think of the situation like a story. So, in the olden days, when you're learning tarot, then sometimes some readers would take a significator card, which is a card that I'm sure most of you know this already. It's a card that is supposedly representing the seeker, representing the querent. So in, you know, some readers would even say, right, if it was a female seeker, they would choose a female card from the deck, sometimes the High Priestess, and take that out of the deck and be like, right, that's you. Or if it was like a new mother, they might take the Empress out of the deck and put it there and say, like, that's you. Ah, okay, thanks, Amber. She's saying that you can't share photos, but you can share links. Sorry, Kirsten, I know you don't want to be all over the place on social media, but it would be really cool to see that spread. Finding your story in the cards, that is amazing, Talia, yeah. So yeah, but then obviously if you take those cards out to be the significator, or if it was a man, then you might take the Magician out to be him, or perhaps you would go from their astrology or what they look like and you would take one of the court cards out to represent them. But like, why? I think it's important to have a significator, somebody who is the person in the spread, which I will be doing in a moment. But if we're letting the cards kind of show us and we're trusting in that for everything else, why do we pull a specific card out to be the... Oh, thanks, Vinny's Craft Room. Can't share links in the chat, but can put them in comments after the video's finished. Okay, cool. That's good. So yeah, if we might be able to find a way of getting hold of that spread, that would be really cool, Kirsten. Or even if you email it to me, perhaps I could share it somewhere. If you prefer to do that, that would be fine too. I'm trying to like read the comments at the same... Yeah, if I use a significator, take it from a separate deck. Yeah, and that's a really cool way of doing it, Veronica, if you want to use one. But what I used to do is I would ask the querent to choose a significator. So they would go through the deck and they would choose an image which resonated with them in their particular, or is how they're feeling in that particular situation. I think Barbara Moore, I'm pretty sure she talks about that. I'm pretty sure she talks about this in her Tarot Spreads book as well. So that is a cool way of doing it. But what I like to do is, and this is how we will start off this kind of storytelling spread, is be like, okay, show me the person in their current situation, and just take a card to be the significator. Okay, and we've got the Two of Wands. So, and you know, there's different possibilities of interpretation here. We could be, and for me, it often is the person in the picture. So this person here is like waving off the person who's going. So is the person that we're reading for this, the person who's saying bye, you know, see you soon? Yeah, this is the Green Witch Tarot. Sorry, I should totally have said that before I started using it. This is this is a quite new to me deck. Ashley over at Ashley Adulting sent me this as a gift, which was just blew my mind. And yeah, this is new to me. I've only been using it for this month for my daily draw deck. So this is I'm kind of learning the images in this card in this deck at the moment, but I'm finding it really cool. So is it her? Are you the one waving somebody off? So perhaps the person who's come for a reading is, I'm feeling like their child's going to university or something like that, and it is... Okay, yeah, so there's definitely lots of different ways of finding significators. I'm reading what some of you guys are saying in there. So she's saying goodbye to her child who's going off to university. That is... that's my reading of that significator. Obviously, there's lots and lots of options of what you could read in that card, and you might be seeing something completely different in there, which is cool. That's what I love about tarots, is so open to interpretation. We can all read in different ways, which is really, really cool. Okay, and then I like to take a card. So we've got the person our story is about is this, and we've already got the start of a story developing because there is a situation happening here, isn't it? And then I like to take a card which you can call the antagonist. If this is the protagonist, the kind of person the story is about, then this card is the antagonist, and it is the card that shows the kind of issues that are happening in this particular situation. So, okay. Right. So we've got 6 of Athames, which is 6 of, sorry, I'm trying to read the chat and show this at the same time. This is 6 of Swords, and it's quite sort of typical imagery, apart from this person, look, is coming to a new shore as well. It is thin cardstock, but you know, I actually am on board with it now. Now I've kind of got used to the thinness of it. It's fine, it doesn't bother me. It shuffles really well actually, and yeah, it's good. So instead of sailing off to a different shore with your ideas, it seems like this person is kind of coming to a new shore, and carrying on with our theme of the person whose child is going to university. It feels like she's trying to kind of start a new life for herself, and she's trying to well, yeah, she's trying to figure out who she is now, this new place that she's going to, now that her child has moved on. So we've got that as our kind of this, and that's why I want to do the Celtic Cross as well, because the way I lay these cards out when I do this kind of storytelling spread has got some similarities to the Celtic Cross. So yeah, so we've got our kind of significator, if you want to call it, or protagonist, as I'm calling in this, because it's storytelling with cards. Here she is, and she is waving goodbye to her child who's going off to university, and she is now trying to find out, she's trying to think about, and she's not quite sure how she's going to do it. She's kind of got all these thoughts, and she's trying to go off to a new place, but she's still got all those thoughts with her, you know, her old way of thinking is still kind of coming with her to that new place at the moment, and that is the kind of situation that she finds herself in. So is everyone kind of following this so far? I'm hoping this is remotely useful. Okay, this card can also sometimes be a block, or like the bad thing that is happening in a situation. So like these cards are both fairly harmonious with each other, but sometimes you'll find something that is really opposite to this, you know, and it can sometimes it's a person as well, you know, it's like somebody who is actually an antagonist to the protagonist, you know, the baddie. So yeah, that's the kind of center of the spread. And then, and you can use the spread to tell any story, because that's the beauty of it. By using kind of not vague but open-ended positioning, you can use the spread to read lots of different situations. Okay, and then I like to have a card for setting. Wow, holy hen. Yeah, funny how that works out sometimes. I always find that when I do live readings as well, it's like how even the people that you're not reading for get something out of it, which is really bonkers. So the situation, the context of the situation, or if you're writing a story, this would be the setting of the story. Let's see what the setting of the story is. The 5 of Chalices, so 5 of Cups. Let me lift that up so we can see it a little bit closer to the image in it. Okay. And what I'm getting here now, 5 of Cups, see how she's like pouring out the cups onto the ground? And that little rabbit is there watching her. She chose to stay home and to look after her child. Okay, so I haven't got a question. I am literally just making this up from the images on the cards. I'm telling the story from what the cards are kind of presenting me. Obviously, you guys could be reading this completely differently from me. So I'm just reading into it what I'm seeing here. Yes, exactly, Billy's craft room, empty nest. But the situation, what has led up to this point, what has kind of brought us here, is that she didn't focus on the other passions and stuff. She gave herself wholeheartedly to the homemaking, you know. So that is what has brought us up to this. And look, I'm getting an email about this. What is wrong with me, guys, these last couple of months? Oh my god, I can't even say it's these last couple of months, it's all my life, really. This is even a totally hypothetical situation. Yeah, and this is not, I'm not at all saying it is, it's a bad thing, but there was a choice made. There was a choice made, and she chose to pour away certain cups, certain passions, and she is focused on doing this until, look, and look, we've even got the age progression in these cards here. You know, this is her as a younger person choosing as she's starting off. And we've even got the fruits there, you know, the berries. And then, you know, this is her as an older person now, waving them off. So I hope this is making sense, like I said. And then that's our situation, our story setting, and what has led us up to this path. Sorry. I'll try not to make you cry. Oh, okay, so I can actually do that. And then we have, and I love to have this in the spread, I think this helps me out so much, is having the kind of what is not known, what is hidden in the situation. What does the protagonist of the situation not know? And that is, oh, okay, gorgeous. So she does not know how much she knows. She does not realize that she can tap into this gorgeous well pool of intuition and connection with the world. Look at that moon just smiling down. So yeah, that is what she does not know. She's not in touch with her intuition at the moment. She is focusing more on the kind of, on the swords, on the mental, on the kind of practical aspects as well of the situation. Okay, and then I'm also going to say what the theme of this story is. And that's what's going to go up on the top, the theme of this story. Okay, and we've got the wheel. Oh, did you, Lisa? That's in my watch list, actually. Lisa's saying that she created a fictional character to do Jeff's 4x4 tag, which was hilarious. I create fictional characters with the cards all the time, but it is, and then sometimes you find the most amazing stories in there, you know, that sometimes I'll use them because I don't know, I haven't mentioned that much on this channel, but I'm a writer as well, so I do use the cards in my own storytelling as well. So with this Wheel of the Year, the theme of this story is change. The theme of the story is change, time passing, and the inevitability of that. That is what is going on here, which, you know, the cards are amazing. You know, it's coherent, this, is it not? You know, it's a coherent story. Yes, Talia, it's a fantastic tool for characterization, and well, for everything, you know, for getting whole situations and stories, because it shows us everything. She doesn't know that she made that choice out of empathy. I love that way of looking at it. That's really cool. Yes, rebirth, discovering who she is beyond the family. I love that, and that definitely does look like that, doesn't it? Like she could go into that pool of water and come out as a new person, which is amazing. And then I do take a kind of next future card, the kind of outcome of the story, which is hopefully something lovely. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this card made me really emo when I did the flip through of this deck. It's gorgeous. It's the Death card, 13, Lord of the Shadows. But it is such a beautiful card of transformation and kind of connection to that well, that water well of intuition here as well. So what we are seeing here is that she isn't going to do this really. She's not going to be able to take her old ideas and just sail to a different place kind of gently and easily. There is something much more, you know, we've got majors here again. This is a bigger change that is going on here. And this is, you know, it's death. It is the death of her image of herself as this. And she's going to go through that and she's going to come out as something else. And in this situation, if I was reading this for a client who'd come, you know, to have a reading, I would probably, because if you end on the death card, people don't tend to like that very much. So it can be helpful to take another card. And what I would probably do in this situation, if I was reading for an actual client, is I'd probably choose an oracle card at this point and just take an oracle card for some guidance. Or possibly, you know, something that's going to be more reassuring. Okay. So, but I'm not going to do that because it's not actually a real person. So we don't have to worry too much about her feelings. People do get worried about it still, even though, you know, we've been saying this for so long, that death is part of life and it's just part of that transformational process. It's part of the wheel, you know. We can't move on in the wheel without death, and then we have rebirth. You know, which these cards, you know, these cards all linking up so beautifully together. You get excited at the death card at the end of reason, Veronica. Yes, but that is because you understand what it means, And it doesn't say death. No, it says the Lord of Shadow. Yeah. And it is very much, again, like the imagery of this card is again about aging and about relationships, which is so beautiful with what we've already got here. So yeah, I wouldn't always do this, but if it did end like this, I might well take another card as well and just say, right, okay. And what we're going to do instead, another major, is we're going to go back and focus on her relationship. Maybe a new relationship, perhaps, but her as a person who can make a decision again, her as a person whose life is her own again, her as somebody who is going for what she wants and choosing. Yeah. So that would be a lovely card to finish that reading on. This reading that isn't actually about anybody in particular at all, but I wanted to do it as a way of illustrating how you can use storytelling as a powerful medium for creating your own spreads. Let's check what time it is. Oh my gosh, it's almost 8:10 already. Wow. Okay, so are there any questions about that? I'm just going to try and check the chat. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Death as a life card. Yeah, that is such a powerful life card. You know, you're going to go through that. Yeah, and Amber said it is a tricky one reading for others. It's still, even now, you know, people do not like it. Like, that is why sometimes in decks like this, where they rename it, it can be helpful in a way, because people aren't so freaked out by seeing the death card. Yeah. Are there any questions? Is everyone kind of understanding what I'm talking about here? I'm using that kind of more free form of the Celtic Cross, a more free form spread to read for any particular situation. Oh, great. I'm glad everyone's seeming to understand, which is really wonderful. It is so simple, and so I almost felt a bit like embarrassed sharing this, because I'm sure you guys use much more complex spreads than this, but I've really found that this can really get into the heart of the matter, you know, of what is going on. Yeah. Yeah, so this is kind of like my more free form version of the centre of the Celtic Cross. Okay, and there were a few other questions that we had. Right, I'm going to look back at my notes now and see what I didn't cover. Okay, so the shape of the spread I do find to be really important, and when you download spreads and things off the internet and use them, they will often be laid out in a shape which I think it influences our brains as a kind of pattern making, and it's it helps to understand, you know, we naturally in Western culture, you know, we read from left to right, we can see that progression already, we understand about things moving from the unconscious to the conscious, we understand about a card being crossed over being a crossing card, you know. So it gives us a kind of a way of understanding, even if we don't know the exact questions behind the positions. And something I do like to do as well when I'm creating my own spreads is I do like to actually have a question for each position in the spread, because sometimes that can give a more clear answer than if you are just kind of saying, show me this. Sometimes if you say, what is the, you know, what is the protagonist doing in this situation or something, and that can bring it out. Also, people giving some love for the Celtic Cross. I'm liking that people are feeling inspired to maybe use this in a slightly new way, you know, in a slightly different way that can be, I think, a little bit more useful, and also I think a little bit more relevant to like us in this particular time now, where we do feel that our lives are not bound by fate and by, you know, things are not set in stone. We have agency, we can make changes, we can do things differently. So yeah, that is one of the things. I'm just, like I said, just quickly checking what I maybe haven't covered. Now, we didn't get this in this particular spread. Everything seemed to flow really easily and really beautifully. But when I asked on Instagram for kind of questions about, yes, Anya, it's also useful to just ask, what story do I need to hear right now? And I don't think I explained that really clearly at the start. I was a bit overexcited and a bit like scared when I first started this live stream. So I wasn't really, I think, fully explaining how when you have somebody who doesn't know what the question is, this will help, because you don't need to have a specific question. You'll just be able to just dive in and start telling this story. Yeah. So yeah, you don't need to know too much about it. You can read it from here. You can read this story from here. Yes, it is going to be available. I'm just going to leave it up on the channel, so that is totally fine. I know it probably won't make loads of sense for people watching after the live who don't understand about Tarothon and things like that, but yeah, definitely. I love it when I can watch things after, because I can't watch them all in the moment often. So yeah, we didn't get any cards in tricky positions. I suppose you could say death slightly in like the outcome-y, what's the conclusion of the story sort of situation. I also see this as like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. So if you are a writer, then that is a useful tool as well, you know. You can see it as like Act 1 is always the kind of setting up of the story. How do we get to this particular position? And then this middle Act 2 is usually about the antagonist. It's usually about the difficulty that this person is kind of struggling through. And then Act 3 is when the loose ends get tied up and we find it's usually not quite what they're looking for, what they think they're looking for, but it's the next step, the actual change, the turning point for them in that particular situation. So I will talk about difficult cards if we get. I'll come back to that and we'll try and do another spread perhaps if we've got time that we'll have a difficult card, although we haven't got much time left. An hour and a half went really quick. Stalker cards or suits. Right, somebody asked about stalker cards or suits. So when you do a spread and I talked about this a little bit already, like if you look overall and see, right, what suits are coming out, or even cards, especially if you're doing a kind of daily spread or a daily draw and you're getting the same card coming out again and again, that is what we call a stalker card. Or certain suits, perhaps you'll do your daily draws and it'll all come from certain suits. I definitely would take heed of that, because there is definitely a reason, I believe, why those things keep coming out. And in a spread, definitely we are looking at that, because we are looking at the elemental energy that is represented in that spread. So when we look here, we've got an awful lot of, you know, of ether, of spirit kind of going on. We've got a lot of majors, or especially all around this part. This is a major life transition for this person that we're talking about. We've also got chalices, wands, athames. So actually no earth, no pentacles, they are pentacles in this deck as well, yeah. So it's not a physical kind of thing. It is very much, you know, and from this story we can tell it's very much an emotional and spiritual journey that this person is going on. So yeah, I love how the cards just, they made it so easy for me. Thank you, cards. Thank you, thank you. Oh, guys, you're saying such sweet things. I can see like these nice comments popping up, which is really lovely. I love Lisa's voice as well. I love listening to Lisa's voice. She's just so like sing-song and calming. It's lovely. Numerology is another thing that I would be looking at, and that was something people asked about as well. So looking at the numbers in the different spread positions. So we've actually got 5 and a 6 here, so you can almost see that there's a kind of progression going across. We've also got a 6 at the end, but this is the major, you know, we've got our trump 6, whereas this is our 6 of swords here. So this is the kind of issue, but then this is the ultimate outcome. So yeah. Timelines and spreads, well, we kind of talked about that a little bit. Somebody asked, how about using spreads to get a more specific timeline? So like, you know, if you're like, how using a spread to maybe see, will I get a new job in the next sort of 2 months or something like that, and then using a spread to do that. How I tend to do that is by setting specific parameters. So I will say, I'll be really clear, you know, like, how am I going to get a job in the next week or something like that, and then you know, draw a card and see. Or to be honest, I tend to use a pendulum more often for those kind of yes no type answers than this sort of reading. Yeah, I'm seeing lots of questions about health. And does anyone link certain cards to health issues? Okay, so I missed that originally, but I've just found it. Do you know, I don't link certain cards to health issues. I do generally find that obviously the pentacles in particular, usually more physical issues like that, but health issues are also contained within the emotional and the spiritual realms as well. You know, sometimes the cause is not the physical, but sometimes the cause is because of a mental pattern that person is stuck in, and then that is manifesting in their body. Or it could be and it's just an imbalance of energies, you know. And so that is something that you can look at in any card. It doesn't necessarily have to be a specific card. So that was my long-winded way of saying, no, I don't think specific cards denote health issues. What I love about this deck in particular, though, is it does actually it tells you what herbs and things are being shown within the card. So you could use it as a way of inspiring you of something. If you have got a health issue, you could use it to kind of it could be showing you something that you maybe need or something like that. Yeah, that's a whole other video. Oh, timelines and spreads, revisit. Right, yeah, we talked about this at the start, revisiting spreads. How many people actually revisit spreads? I do revisit spreads because probably I'm a bit set in my ways, maybe. I don't know. I do, like I said, I do try and stretch myself and do other people's spreads as well, because I think it's such a good learning experience. But are we laughing at Lisa saying dicks for decks? Because I laugh at that every single time. I'm such a child. Lisa, everyone from the New Zealand area, when they say, yeah, I've got my dicks out, and I'm just like, giggle. Yeah, sorry. Oh, what was I talking about? Revisiting. Yeah, okay. So I think revisiting spreads is a really valuable thing to do, and keeping a record. Like Simon was talking about this in his session. He was talking about writing it down and being able to revisit your journals and things like that. And I think that is such a powerful and valuable practice. So yeah. Sorry, Lisa. Everyone's laughing now. Okay, and oh yeah, and just a little point that my favorite spreads tend to incorporate I don't like spreads that have got a fixed outcome. You know, I don't like spreads that sort of say this. I generally don't like spreads that have got an outcome. I like a kind of, maybe we're moving in this kind of direction, but not a particular outcome. And yeah, we've only got like 9 minutes left. We're really running out of time. Avalon is coming up next. Woohoo! And I think she's here. I think I just saw her in the chat. Yes. Hey, Avalon. So cool. I love Avalon's channel. It is so good. There's so many amazing things there, and I'm super excited for her deck, which is going to be coming out at the end of this year. So yeah, I'm so excited. There is a link for Avalon's channel. In fact, it's not just for her channel. I got the actual link for for her live stream, because she made a link for her live stream. So if you go in the description box for this video right now, or like Jeff told me, which I didn't know this before, is you can click on people's heads in the chat and it will give you more information about them. So thanks for that, Jeff, because I did not know that. But if so, you can either click on Avalon and it will bring up her channel ready for you to watch her live stream, or if you click the link in my description, it will take you directly to the live stream, which she will be starting in 8 minutes according to me on my watch right now. I really cannot believe how fast this time has gone. It's absolutely bonkers. Hey, Miss Tracy too. I'm going to need to be catching up as well on some of them, because I did not see a few, because I did get some sleep last night. Oh, a question. How to know which deck to use? Are some better, for example, health or love, or do you choose a deck as random? Asking as a beginner. Okay, so I have got certain decks which I find are more, not so much actually for topics, as in I use this deck for health reasons, I use this deck for love readings, things like that. But I have got decks which I know are more gentle with me, and I have got decks which literally kick my ass. So if I'm looking for giving myself a hard time, then I will choose the Wild Unknown. And for some insane reason, I have chosen the Wild Unknown as my deck for August. So I'm going to be kicking my ass every single day in August. But there we go, guys. Luckily, I've also got this as my, this is an Oracle deck. This is the Sacred, the Lavish Earth Oracle, and it's all about crystals. And so luckily I've got some prehnite, and I have some prehnite that I'm going to be working with, which will hopefully help to heal my poor little heart after all the brutality of the Wild Unknown. But I like honesty in a deck, so yeah, sometimes it's good to have your ass kicked because it gets you moving in the right direction again. And then sometimes I would choose decks which feel a little bit more gentle, and if I was going to do a health reading, I might be more inclined to do something like that, because it's not nice getting bad, you know, not like bad health news, but it's not nice getting kind of difficult news about health ever. So I would use probably a more sensitive deck for that. I find I do tend to use a Star for more kind of family-based reading, so that is a kind of a good deck I find for that. Can you guys give her any recommendations as well for certain decks you use for certain things? Because I know we haven't got heaps of time left now. Yeah, Wild Unknown it's so raw, it's so I think because it just makes you, you have to fill the gaps in the cards, because the cards, you know, and I didn't even think about the Wild Unknown as being a pip deck until I was watching one of Anya, who's in the chat now, her video when she was talking about it being a pip deck. And I was like, oh yeah, it is. Because it doesn't have like super loads of symbolism on the pip cards. But it leaves a big gap for your own interpretation, and so you have to kind of step up to the plate when you're using that deck, which I find really, really powerful. Oh, my phone is like trying to die, which is really good, isn't it? At least we've only got a few minutes left, so hopefully it's not going to die before us. So what I was going to do, because a few other people have done this, oh, I almost had a jumper then, is to take a card, and it's probably not going to be, oh, okay, I'm going to put that back in because it didn't quite jump quite properly. Three of Hearts has been popping up a lot, but then Three of Swords, sorry, not Three of Hearts, but Zach just pulled 10 of Swords in his, so hopefully that means that that sword energy is kind of ended now and we are ready for something a little bit more. What about something, I think for Avalon, what would I choose? A wand, definitely, maybe the Queen of Wands. So let's see what we get. Oh, 7 of Wands, I'll take it. 7 of Wands. She's choosing which one she's going to use to enchant us all with now in the next hour and a half of this chat. I know, all the thinking, definitely. It's been so kind of just amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much to everyone. And you guys who've been here, some of you guys who've literally been awake for all of these, you are my heroes. You are so hardcore, proper tarot, hardcore people. She does mean business. She's not messing about. So all that remains for me to say really now, I think, is just thank you so much, guys, for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And oh, thanks, Simon. Thank you, Simon, for just like, what a cool idea to do this. It was really, really cool. It was like boot camp. It's been really hardcore, but it's been so much fun as well. Really good. I'm definitely going to be catching up on all of the videos that I couldn't see because I did have to have a little bit of sleep and I went to a party. Oh, and thanks, guys, for the kind words. It's been really fun to hang out with you in the chat and here on my particular live stream as well. And now I hope it's not going to be a bit of an anticlimax for me. I'm going to sign off now, guys, ready for Avalon to start her chat, because I think she should be. Is she on yet? Can somebody tell me if she's on yet? Oh, thank God, Andrew, I didn't even know you're here. Thanks for being here. Oh, lovely. And people are suggesting decks cool, which is really, really cool. Can you do Celtic Cross with Oracle cards? Of course you can. Yes, of course you can. You can do whatever you like. Oh, she's not on yet? Okay, so we'll stay just for a little moment while she's getting herself organised. Maybe she's taking a little bit of extra time to pick her wand, guys. I reckon that's what she's doing. She's choosing a new wand to enchant us all with. Look at the symbolism in these cards. It's just bonkers. There's so much in here. I've been loving using these cards so much. Okay, so Simon's saying 2 minutes to go, but for me, it looks like I've already been... okay. At least it is Avalon always late. I'm usually late, but I was actually early for this live chat, I would just like to point out, which is why mine's showing as I've already done 91 minutes, but actually... Actually, I haven't quite made it to the time yet, which is really bonkers. But yeah, look how much symbolism is in these cards. We've got obviously this, where she's choosing the wands. But look, we've got plants here as well. We've got the fire, showing us the wands with the fire. Yeah, I bet she knows how to go live, Veronica. And she is busy. And look, see this bird here? In the book, which is quite a decent book with this deck. Let me show you. It has... lots of information about everything that is in the card, and it breaks it down as well to like I love this part of it, that it gives you like keywords for the meanings. This isn't the ones for this card, obviously. I just opened it at random to the moon, which was one of the cards that came out. Oh, thank you. And also reversed meanings, and it gives you like that prompt, but it tells you about the things that are in there. It tells you about the animal that is in there, and it tells you about the plant that is in there, which is really cool. Yeah, and it is an unusual 7 of Wands, but I do really find that is why I like having different decks, because I like to use the symbolism that is in that specific deck. So I try not to, although it's hard not to overlay your kind of Rider-Waite-Smith knowledge. Yeah, she does. The woman on the moon card, which is on the front as well, it is Mary Poppins, isn't it? It actually is Mary Poppins. That's actually properly made me lol. That's amazing. Yeah, but there is so much in here. I'm really, really happy with this deck. It's really good. If you don't like thin cardstock, then you are going to be a bit sad. But if you're used to kind of the Llewellyn thin cardstock, like Simon said, he doesn't know why they can't give us thick cardstock and good books and boxes. Oh, Avalon is good. She is on. So I am signing off, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Warmest, warmest blessings. And I will see you very soon. In fact, it will be very soon, because I will see you in the chat for Avalon's video now.